So now our goal is to build our own community of risk professionals and to share knowledge amongst ourselves, and then also ultimately influence policy. That's what we want to do eventually. So we communicate to our members via email as well as via WhatsApp. We've now recently started with our WhatsApp platform, and we encourage our members to actively participate in our committee and also use our platforms to promote their own research-related events that could benefit the wider membership. So you are more than welcome to showcase your research by requesting to present at our bi-monthly webinars. That's something new that we would like to initiate from now on. You are more than welcome to email me directly. That is now, if you've now already joined SRI Africa, you can email me directly. I will include my email address in the chat box soon. And if you have already joined our WhatsApp group, you can also just contact us directly via that group. So I'll also send the link if you would like to join the WhatsApp group. But those are our two platforms. And please make contact us throughout the webinar, through our chat function, and ask absolutely anything that you would like to know. Thank you very much, Abdul.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andraus. Just I would like to inform everyone that we are recording the session, and the SRA Africa has a YouTube channel under SRA Africa, and this presentation will be uploaded to the YouTube so everybody can watch it in their own convenience. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Muhammad Gulab. He is a member in SRA Africa, and also he is a senior toxicologist at United States Environmental Protection Agency. Dr. Gulab will introduce today's speaker. Dr. Gulab.
Thank you, Dr. Kadri, for the great introduction. It is my pleasure actually to introduce Dr. Amal Hussein. I don't know if you guys can see my screen here.
No, please share again.
Okay.
Share again. We don't see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it came. Yeah.
Okay. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished colleague, student, and esteemed guests. It is both honor and privilege to welcome you all today webinar as one of whose actually value the power of interdisciplinary collaboration and transformative potential of knowledge sharing. I am particularly so excited about the opportunity to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Amal Saad Hussein. Dr. Hussein is a remarkable scholar who career embodies commitment, advancing our understanding of environmental and preventive medicine. She currently serves as a professor of environmental and preventive medicine at the Environmental and Climate Change Research Institute, National Research Center in Giza, Egypt. With decades of expertise, Dr. Hussein has played a vital role in sharing research and policy at the intersection of health and environment. Also, Dr. Hussein, her leadership is well recognized both nationally and internationally. She has served as a dean of the Environmental and Climate Change Research Institute from 2016 to 2020, and as a head of the Environmental and Occupational Medicine Department from 2011 to 2016. Her commitment to environmental research in further highlighting by her roles as a member of the Environmental Research Council and the National Committee of Toxicology under the Academy of scientific research and technology in Egypt. Additionally, she contributes to global effort as international expert for Working Group 2 of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, and as internal expert within the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency Central Administration of Climate Change. Also, Dr. Amal Hussein academic journey reflected her deep commitment on public health. She holds a PhD, MD, and MPhD and MPH in public health and environmental medicine from Cairo University, and her professional development, including certification in environmental and health risk assessment and management of toxic chemicals from Thailand. Her work has earned her numerous of clouds, and including the Technology Creation Prize from National Research Center in 2006. Also, she got the prize of environmental research and environmental education from ASRT in 2007, along with multiple certification of excellence for her for scientific contribution. As well, her research and policy expertise span topic for critical importance from toxicology to climate change, providing invaluable information for our global and local communities. Today, Dr. Hussein will share her wealth of knowledge and perspective on climate change risk to African women and children, offering us not only deepening understanding, but also actionable strategy and addressing those issue related to the climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to warming welcome Dr. Amal Hussein. For Dr. Amal, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rob, for this presentation for myself. It's so I feel to be مش عارفة أقول إيه والله، بس أنت قلت كلام كتير قوي.
Thank you. No, I think that you deserve a lot. You deserve a lot. Your career and your work is kind of like it shows that you're doing a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Can I share my
Yes,
screen?
you go ahead. I will stop sharing now. The floor is yours. You can share the screen and start right away. Thank you.
Is it clear?
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
So I will talk today about climate change's risks to African women and children. I will focus more about the women because the most vulnerable population to climate change are women. We know all about climate change and the greenhouse gases, how it works to our Earth, and what impact from increasing the infrared radiation storage around the Earth, or in addition to the solar radiation, and this all increases the temperature of the atmosphere all over the world. This graph summarizes what I have said, that the temperature as we see here, it is more all over stable until 1960 or 1980, and then very rapid rushing up as we see here from 1980, and this attributed to the increase in the industrial forces and the increase in the global manufacturing of many industries that polluted and increasing the greenhouse gases all over the world. This map summarizes the vulnerability of the world. As we here see that Africa is the most vulnerable to climate change and at most risk about the hazards from climate change. Some parts from Asia are also having the same risk, but mostly here many countries in Africa are have a high risk of climate change. If we talk about vulnerable groups, mostly the vulnerable groups can be summarized in the elders above 65 years or more older. Those people suffering from poverty, or those working and making exercise under the direct exposure to the sun. If people have any disabilities or chronic diseases, in addition to the places that is already hot, it become more heater and more complaining from the increasing in the temperature. The elevated environmental temperature enhance many hazards to the human being. If we talk about the adults, we found that heat stroke, renal failure or neural injuries, myocardial infarctions, and heart diseases are the most common problems among adults. If we talk about children, we would focus about electrolyte imbalance due to the heavy sweating and diarrhea and many exposures or many diseases that may make the children more sensitive to losing electrolyte, and this electrolyte imbalance will make different physiological abnormalities among the children. Also, the fever, increasing fever, respiratory disease, renal problems, all these are complications from climate change, or risks of from climate change on the children. If we talk about multiple vulnerabilities, as I first in my talk, I talk about the women that they are, all women are more sensitive to climate change, especially the pregnant one. The pregnancy make elevation in the physiologically elevation in the temperature of the pregnant women by from 1/2 to 1 degree, and when she exposed to high increase in the temperature, these from the atmosphere, this may get them to be suffering from increasing fever, and that this, as we will see in the next slides, that this will affect the human, the women body and their fetus. Also, the disabilities, if there is any disabilities, the poor persons, especially those displaced from their loss due to their losing their home due to the environmental disasters or weather disasters, and they replaced their places from place to place, and also suffering from poor, and this may make them very vulnerable to climate change. As in the previous slide, elders and children are more sensitive to climate change, and those working or making exercise under direct sun, and also the manual workers are suffering. This slide summarizes most of the health hazards due to climate change. As we know that climate change will lead to increase temperature, increase sea level rise, increase the weather extreme events, and these the three parts will work on many other factors as air pollution, vector-borne diseases, allergy, waterborne diseases, environmental refugee, mental health, water and food supply, heat, direct heat effects, and severe extreme weather events. These all will affect the human body by many diseases. But when I decided if it is climate change is a gender nutrient or not, from the publications and the literatures and all the articles published about this idea, we found that the climate change is not gender neutral. We found they are deviated toward damaging the health of women, especially women. And we will talk about it in more details in the next slides. When we talk about extreme weather events due to climate change, we will find that women and girls faces amplified physical and mental stress. Sorry for the phone disturb. Women and girls faces amplified physical and mental stress as primary caregiver during the adverse extreme weather event. As we know that women is always taking care of her husband, her children, her family, and this may, with extreme weather events increasing the efforts that she need to done either physically and also will make a heavy stress mentally for her. Also increase household and resources gathering responsibility, mostly deviated towards the women to take care and to do make some of the work that was done by her husband if she moved with their children to another place or any damage happened to her husband. She must take care about the household and resources gathering responsibility will increase that. That will be increased. By that, this may make additional health risks such as vector-borne disease. They exposed during their working in the field in agriculture or with animals or so on. They may expose to vector bites that may transmit to her many vector-borne diseases. Besides the dehydration and heat strokes that may be happened due to their direct exposure to the hot weather or due to the neglection of drinking or taking enough fluids to overcome the losses of the water from her body through by sweating and so on. Also, there is a greater push into these rules can be also limited because of the low educational strategy and the workforce opportunities for the women in many African countries, and this increasing the risk for their be more poor and more working in many hazardous work, and this increasing the increasing child marriages and increasing the gender-based violence against the women, and this all may increase the stress, mental stress to her, or also physical abnormalities. If we talk about non-communicable disease, we found that she is under heavy stress, mental stress that will cause a psychological problem. She will poor and maybe of low education, and there is no opportunities, high opportunities of the work, and so the socioeconomic may face high socioeconomic problems. Also nutritional health problems. Most of the women are making the very high protein diets for her children or her husband, and she take very minute of them because of saving the high quality of nutrition to her children, and this may affect her child, her nutritional status. In addition to that, all the reproductive health problems that she will face. The extreme weather event may have direct injury or death, destruction of the home and the communities that disrupts the livelihood, the livelihoods and poor access to health care. Because of this damaging, mostly the woman may move away from her original place and may migrate to another places, even inside the country or outside in another countries, and so their access to health care system may not be so efficient as before, and this may make increasing the risk of not taking care of her health during the extreme event. In addition, prenatal, intrapartum, postpartum care due to damaged healthcare facilities will be increasing, and this may lead to increase the stillbirth babies and all the abortions, and this may have increasing the health hazards of the women. High-risk physical and sexual and domestic violence also increasing the mental and physical hazards to the women. Poverty trapping due to loss of access, strength, and personal economy recovery worsen also the mental outcome. If we talk about direct or heat exposure effect, here when the women have exposed to heat, to high atmospheric temperature, especially if she is pregnant, may increasing if the effect or the impact on the center of cooling in her brain, and this may make disturbance in the sweating and increase, and there is either increasing sweating that leading to dehydration, or decreasing the sweating and increasing the temperature of the body that may lead to many dangers for her baby and for her infant, and also for herself. Also, many studies found that the exposure to high temperature may lead to increase prostaglandin, oxytocin, and heat shock proteins, and this may lead to disturbance in the physiological function of the body of the female. The mental cross restriction was found mainly due to reduction of blood flow and alteration in the blood viscosity because of the dehydration that happened to the pregnant woman. Also, elevated risk of maternal hypertension, preeclampsia, and placenta previa, and so on, that may make complicated labor, and when she if she didn't reach the medical care efficiency, this may the female may lose her life, or in addition to lose her baby. If we talk about water and foodborne infectious diseases, this figure shows that there is a study done at 2000 making a comparison between the increasing in the atmospheric temperature per year and the increasing of the instance or the of diarrhea, and we notice that most of the peaks of diarrhea are coincident with the peaks of the increasing the atmospheric temperature. So, due to lack of water and clean water and sanitation facility, this may lead to increase the episodes of diarrhea and the frequency of diarrhea and bacterial infection due to lack in the hygiene and drinking unsafe water. Not only hygiene for linked with diarrhea, it also found that in females, especially in females, it links with the urinary tract infection and menstrual hygiene that may causing troubles or many complications if after the many fibrosis and many complications during these infections, and may be complicated. They may lead to fertility or infertility or to complication of pregnancy in the future. This slide summarizes the mechanisms of how climate variation or climate change may affect or may lead to diarrheal disease. If we talk about drought, this means that there is unsafe limited water supply, difficult hygiene, and nutrition deficiency. All these nutrition deficiency will lead to low immunity of the personnel, and this will lead to diarrhea. If we talk about floods, excess water may causing making disasters for the water treatment facilities, and the water treatment facilities may face failure to clean or treat all this huge amount of water. And besides that, the tuberous and the crisis may be spread in the river or in the near the water resources that cause contamination of the water resources. So contamination of water resources due to excess floods may lead to diarrhea. In addition, the increased temperature of the atmosphere will increasing the food spoilage, in addition to algae blooms that may lead to diarrhea, and besides the toxicity of from algae. This study was done in Egypt in National Research Center with the collaboration with LISA Institute in France. We found that climate change was having many risks to the increase in diarrhea, but not all over the country. We take 7 governors from different places from the country, from Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt and Delta and so on. And we found that there is variation in the risks according to the condition of the governorate itself. We found that in Cairo, extreme rain and unusual rainy winter are the most risk factors for diarrhea. But in Alexandria and Gharbia, we found that the hot increase in the number of hot days was the linking or the risk for increasing diarrhea. in other governates, we found that climate change in form of increased raining or increased temperature have no effect. But this study was limited because we didn't including the infrastructure in each governorate. Also, we didn't include the health facilities in this governorate, and this make that the study so not so complete to be have a broad vision about the actual reality of the situation. Here, climate change also have an impact on the air quality, and air quality also have impact on climate change. Air quality, when there is increasing in the greenhouse gases, this increase the problem of climate change, and when increasing climate change, this will increasing the chemistry of the air pollutants and may increasing the toxicity. So here we found that this chart summarizes what I say, that if with the impact of climate change on pollution, we found that it may be leading to degradation of the chemical or the air pollutants, and this degradation either increasing the toxicity if they produce another component or metabolites more toxic, or decreasing the toxicity by use as a result of the changing in the chemistry of the pollutant. Also, there is the combination of multiple pollutants may react with each other and release a new pollutant that may be more hazardous or more toxic to the human. In addition to the mobilization and the transportation of the pollutant from area to area, according to the changing in the temperature and the rain, that may wash the pollutant from place and move it to the sources, water sources, either underground sources from the, for example, if I talk about the pesticide, when there is heavy rain, it may wash the from the plant to the soil and then return to the to reach the underground water, and may causes increasing the toxicity from increasing the concentration of this pollutant. In addition, that the reaction that may lead results from acidic rain, that acidic rain when reach the air pollutants may react with them and making some different components that are more toxic. So if we talk about air pollution and women, we found that oxidative injury and acute inflammation in the respiratory tract resulting in worsening the respiratory and cardiovascular disease among women. Not only that, oxidative stress into serial cell dysfunction, coagulation abnormalities will lead to impact on all the organs of the women, including her baby or her fetus, that may lead to preterm births. And there is a study found that 80% is associated with preterm births are associated with the using fossil fluid in as a combustion in especially in indoor. Increased rate of premature term birth also and low birth weight in pregnant women was found also among women living in beside the wildfire due to the smoke, that the heavy smoke that may cause increasing in the particulate matter, and this will affect the women and her fetus. When we talk about vector-borne disease sensitive to climate change, we found that temperature will affect in the distribution of the vector itself, and also in the physiology and the biology of the vector. Also, it will affect on the pathogenic agent and may accelerate the life cycle of the pathogenic agent inside the insect and increasing the bite, the rate of bites of the insects, and this may accelerate the rate of or the transmission of disease from person to person or from population, group of population among group of population. We found that also global wind pattern may change the migration of the vector and move these vectors from place to place with increasing precipitation. We found that also may increasing the length of the season for vector to be survive or decreasing it working up and down in this situation. Humidity also play a role in the vector life cycle and may increase making changing in the genetic composition of the vectors themselves. When the woman changes her lifestyle from to and may to exposed to the vector through working in the agriculture as a farmer or with the animal domestic animals in her houses and so on. This may increase their exposure to the bites of the insects and may increase the risk of transmission of vector-borne diseases to them. High temperature also was found that in pregnant women may change the hormonal pattern of the pregnant women, and this make suppression of her defense system or the immune system, and may result in increasing the rate of viremia or parasitemia and so on. In addition to the factor of vertical transmission of the infection between the mother and her fetus and may causing abnormalities to the infants. Another health problem is the zoonotic diseases. Most of the women are taking care of the domestic animals either in the farm or their habitats to make cleaning and feeding and so on. Also the birds, and this may lead to her exposure to the dangers of zoonotic diseases. This map making an overview about the distribution of zoonotic diseases, as here we see that Africa is have a high risk of the distribution of zoonotic diseases. So, climate change could play a role in transmission of zoonotic diseases because of some situations. If we talk about the viruses from birds, so it can transmit it to the exposed person through airborne transmission. We all know about avian flu and what happened to globally because of the H5N2 because of avian flu. There is many studies done about that to study the source of the this virus and why this pandemic or this very hazardous problem happened to many countries all over the world. They found that some of these studies are done here in Egypt, and if I talk about what the studies are done in Egypt, we found that the wild birds, the migration of wild birds are changing due to the increasing in the temperature, and the seasonal migration are increasing. This virus was presence in the body of the wild birds, but not the wild birds have immunity against this virus, so they didn't complaining any symptoms or any problems of from this virus. But when with the changing in the line of migration of this birds, and the seasonal of the seasons for this migration, they they stopped at areas where the presence of domestic birds. Domestic birds didn't suffer from this virus before, so they didn't have previous immunity. So when there is became connected through either airborne transmission or through contamination of the water the domestic birds drink from it, the virus transmitted to the domestic birds, and this disaster happened and then transmitted to the contact persons and become a zoonotic disease. Also, zoonotic diseases can transmitted through foodborne consumption of infected meat or milk, or close contact with the animal, either through the biological fluids of the animal or the direct with the droplet of the animal. Also, there is some studies done about the bites of animal or the transmission of rabies, for example, and the other diseases that transmit from animal to human through bites. And they found that there is a relationship between the climate change and increasing temperature with the increasing the frequency of bites and the aggression happened to the animals. Besides that, there is with the decreasing of the food supply and the fires in the wildfires and so on, the nutrition or the food for the wild animals become low or not so enough for them, and they started to migrate to the nearby rural areas or the communities, and so they become when they contact a human, they may transmit some diseases, as some of the researchers about COVID talking about that. If we talk about parasitic disease, there's many sources of parasitic diseases, but here I will talk about the snails and what happened to the snails. We found that the actual or the suitable temperature, the ambient temperature for the survival of snails is between 20 to 30 degrees centigrade. If the temperature increases than 30, the survival of the snails will decrease, or before less than 20, also the survival will be decreased, and the mortality of snails will be increasing. This will lead to the snail is alive and is life, and she and it will be change their distribution to another places with to be more suitable for their as saving her life to be more multiplied and so on. But so they moving from place to place and migrate to another areas, and this may change the places of transmission of diseases we found. This study was done also in Egypt and published at 2014. It was a study, here we study the trend of schistosomiasis, the complication of schistosomiasis about the bladder cancer in Egypt in the different governorates during the period of 1995 to 2005. We found that there is deviation in the risk of the infected the bladder cancer due to schistosomiasis was deviated from place to place, and it appears in many different areas that there is no history of schistosomiasis at Red Sea and Sinai. Also, we found that there is change in the gender susceptibility to schistosomiasis because the males, the farmers' male go out or migrate to another places for seeking for increasing their income due to the increasing sea level rise and the salinity of the land, the agricultural land, and so the quantity and quality of the products will decrease, were decreased. So the females replaced the male in their work and they increase the risk of exposure to schistosomiasis and the complication of schistosomiasis. Tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is expected to be increased due to the slums, increased crowdiness index, and ill ventilation due to increasing migration between from place to place due to the disasters of weather, either the losing of some areas due to increased sea level rise or the floods, dryness, and those migration may lead to increasing the population in some areas that leads to increasing slums, increasing crowdiness, and there will be ill ventilation. Besides that, the quality of their food will not so good, so will lead to low quality and low quantity may lead to malnutrition and low immunity. In addition to the disrupt their access to healthcare system, may lead to losing of the early diagnosis of the cases, and this may increase the prognosis of may worsen the prognosis of the situation of the patients if there is late diagnosis and improper treatment, so they may suffer to many hazards. About emerging diseases, we found that extreme weather event may lead to heavy impacts on global agriculture and food production, and this increasing food insecurity and need to malnutrition, impaired immunity. Besides, as I said before, that the increase in the extreme weather events may leading wild animals to migrate to other to the more safe areas, so they may communicate with population and there will happen the transmission of disease from these wild animals to the human. In addition to the decrease in the access to safe and clean water, drinking water, will have with contamination of the food and the water will lead to poor sanitation and increasing the susceptibility of increasing the disease. The SDG or Sustainable Development Goals, we have here the goal number 13 talking about climate change, tracking climate change and its impact. Currently lacks the inclusion of health, gender, but they targeting the climate change and its impact, but there is no concentration about the gender difference and what will happen to the women because as more susceptible or more vulnerable to this climate change. So this need making more researches in this part and to have more solutions for the women to improving the situation of women. Also, the absence of or the deficient data from rural area worsened the situation of the women of poverty. The lack of health insurance and lack of education. All these are parameters that working in increasing the risk, the vulnerability of women. We know that the importance of health education and public awareness have an importance. This study was done in Egypt also. We make health education for rural women about the sanitation and how to collect water and make it in a safe situation. And we published two papers. This figure summarizes the results that we found that these are the situation before the health education, but when we make a health education, there is great improvement in most of the items that related to the sanitation and how to use or collect safe water for drinking and for cooking and so on. We also making comparisons between the different possibilities or the different ways, tools we use for health education and environmental and health education and awareness of the population. We found that public sessions with the discussion of the attendees produce only 40% success. But when we change the situation to be person to person through the meetings, we found that the success rate in the changing in their attitude and behavior was about 50%. We also studied the effect of using different publications or different pursuits by the language of our country in Arabic, but anyone can do it in their language. We found that only 30% success. When we put posters summarizing this by pictures and put posters in different areas, we found the success rate was only 40%. But when we make sessions by practice and especially with the young students, and then started to teaching them how to put the safe water and how to collect it in safe covered container and so on, we found that success rate was increased to 90% because these students educate their families and their mothers about how to deal with the problem and how to protect themselves. But until now, we didn't find any success tool that reached 100% success. And we hope that with multiplication of the tools, we can reach 100% success and all the population and the awareness of the population be increasing. And thank you very much. I hope I didn't exceed my time.
No, your timing is great. Thank you very much, Dr. Amal. There is one question on the chat. Okay. From your investigation, did you find any relationship between climate change and the skin diseases?
Skin diseases.
Yes.
I didn't do real study on that, but from the documentation of Cancer Institute in Egypt here, we found that cancer skin is increasing, especially among those farmers and among those working on direct exposure to the sun. So maybe this needs more detailed investigation. But about the infections, I didn't work on it, so I can't have a real idea about if there is a link between climate change and infections or of the skin. or not. But on respiratory, there is increasing in the rate of infection or allergy, and bronchial asthma is increasing with climate change, and this was rare and proved.
Thank you very much. From your presentation, when you have one slide on bilharziasis in Egypt, I noticed that Said, it is somehow similar to Luxor. How can you explain that?
You know that most of the we explain it in this literature by that snails moving their position due to increasing the temperature because of increasing mortality of in the snails. And I think we have here with us Dr. Nahid, and she make a special project about that. So if Dr. Nahid can
Absolutely,
answer.
please, Dr. Nahid.
Dr. Nahid.
Ashik says muted.
Yeah.
It's okay, you know, that's okay. You can, yeah.
But mostly, in summary, we found that there is already effect on the snails and on the frequency and on the infectivity of these snails all over the governates. We took in the project in Dr. Nahid, we took the Delta and a few governates from Upper Egypt, and we found that there is very real effect on the snails in the distribution. About Port-Said, mostly the most of the population was having previous infection with schistosomiasis was migrating from the other Delta.
Makes sense. Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
Good evening, Dr. Amal.
Good evening. Yes, welcome.
Evening, I'm Nahid, Dr. Nahid Ismail.
Welcome, Dr. Nahid. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yes, I discussed this. Snails maybe move from place to place according to the increasing or changing in the suitable habitat according to climate change. Variability. Maybe snails could not tolerate the increasing temperature, and they migrate from place to place. This is explain how presence of snails in Port Said like Luxor. Luxor maybe the temperatures very high to the and not suitable for these snails. I think in my project about the distributions and special distributions of freshwater snails in Delta governorates. This is a very variability. From government to another government in the south of Delta or middle Delta or the south of Delta. This is connected with the variability in the temperatures according to the increasing or the hot days. Increasing the hot days may be affecting the snails, which is don't tolerate this increasing in temperatures. I think this the explanation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Nahid. So now, any questions from the audience? Please unmute yourself and ask the questions or comments.
I just
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Amal, for the great presentation. It's very informative, and thank you a lot for your time. I just have one question. If there is any effort from Egypt or African country, based on your expertise, with kind of like a different committee, different climate change committee, there is any effort to kind of like improve or have any regulation regarding to the climate change?
If I will talk about Egypt, yes, there's many regulations, and there is we starting in working in not only adaptation with climate change, but also in mitigation of the pollutants or the mitigation of the greenhouse gases. Egypt, as you know, is not involved as a problem for the emissions of greenhouse gases. It's just emitted about 0.06% from the emissions of the global pollutants. But we already started in a plan for mitigation through the Ministry of Environmental Affairs.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Ministry of
Thank
Health
you.
is working now on the adaptation measures
Oh,
with the environmental agency also.
that's good. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions or comments from the audience? Unmute yourself and ask. I hear none. So I would like to invite Dr. Bernard Gadugobi from the Executive Board of SRA Africa to make final remarks. Dr. Gadugobi, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Abdel. I think this is a wonderful presentation, and we still need to get more insight into what our colleagues in Africa are doing, so that we can also share with the achievements and all that. Dr. Amal, thank you for having the time to share your expertise with us. We really, really appreciate it. And anytime we call on you, you humbly come to talk to us. We appreciate that. And for the listeners, thank you for joining us. Dr. Abdel, I don't know whether I'm supposed to give vote of thanks or not. But it's wonderful seeing everybody.
Thank you, Doctor. I want to add something here. I have a book about the climate change impact in Africa, focusing on liver diseases. So I will send the link to Dr. Abdelrazak, and he will share it with all the committee.
I will have a copy of it. Thank you very much for wonderful work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bernard. We would like to thank you all and wish you a very happy holidays. And our next webinar will be in February. Wait for your email. You will get the announcement. And our next speaker will be Dr. Vincent Shigor, will be from Nigeria. And he will discuss with us the effect of climate change on the water in Nigeria. We would like to thank you all. Thank you very much, Dr. Amal. Thank you all the participants today, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.